Greetings, gods and goddesses in training. Welcome back to the channel. It is Uncle Makara. All relations. Today we are speaking about one of my favorite topics to speak about, which is Samadhi. Samadhi is one of my favorite words, and it is such a powerful understanding and transmission. If you really get it, it's tough to explain really in a video because it's beyond mind. However, I'm going to try my best to unravel this for you. I've been watching the movie Samadhi, number one and number two, so I have some notes from that, as well as I've been listening to Yogi Raj Siddhanath, who was recently on the Next Level Soul podcast. And from there, he was talking about the return of the Kalki Avatar in 2032. And I started to recognize that he would be like in his teenage years right now. Right, which is very interesting because he's supposed to be taking over from 25 to 28 in a sense. But regardless, that's besides the point. Welcome to today's video. I hope you have an incredible uh, installation, downloads from this episode and lecture and masterclass, whatever you want to call this. Every day I either post a video or live stream, so welcome to the channel. If you're new, please hit that like and subscribe button. It would really help us to keep this movement moving forward and helping others. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. I call this leap into nothing to discover everything, right? Which is basically a very good description of what Samadhi is and could be. Okay, now, my babe shared the link. Awesome. Hey there, lovely. Thank you. She says, I have beautiful wings. Caw, right? So, in Sanskrit, the word samadhi comes from the root word sam. Sam means together, completely, fully. A is towards or into, and dha is a place to put or hold. So literally, samadhi actually means to bring together completely. Isn't that interesting? It's ultimate integration, right? Or complete absorption in yogic and spiritual tradition. So it refers to the state where the mind becomes so fully absorbed with the object of meditation. So it's dropping away of distractions, ego, duality. And it can be translated in English as union or absorption or meditative equipoise. These are just different ways of trying to translate it. But really, you got to dig deeper into this to understand it better because there's savikalpa samadhi, which is absorption with thoughts, right? It's like let me just point it out here on a whiteboard. That'll be easier. So we have savikalpa samadhi, which is like an absorption with thoughts. Okay, so in here the duality is still present. However, there's another kind of samadhi called nirvikalpa samadhi. Okay, and this level of samadhi is basically a pure awareness or an absorption beyond thoughts. Okay? Absorption with thoughts, absorption beyond thoughts. Right? Are we getting this? Now, samadhi, as Yogi Raj had described it, which I love this definition of samadhi, which is thought-free, tranquil awareness. How does this relate to flow state because of motion and no mind and so forth, and all of these, states of being? So this is what's really, really key and important to understand. Ultimately, only pure consciousness remains, right? So Savikalpa Samadhi is actually with support, right? You see the divine through the mirror of the mind. So visions, forms, divine experiences. And this is where the mind becomes a still lake without ripples, right? So how he described it, so you have the moon, right? Reflecting into the water. And the water has ripples on it. That's our egoic, rajasic like energies, right? Of the mind. These little ripples, these little distortions of thinking. But once you silence the mind, you can clearly see the moon, correct? So that's like the Atma or the soul with the Para Atma, right? And then there's something called the divine indweller that comes through as well, okay? So Savikalpa Samadhi is with support, with assistance, you could say. And Nirvikalpa Samadhi is going into beyond support, okay? Beyond support meaning even the mirror of the mind dissolves, right? Only pure consciousness remains, the reality beyond knowledge, beyond mind. So in the Hindu pantheon, God is actually beyond words, right? The supreme reality is described as all-pervading consciousness of stillness through eternity. It's composed of nothing, yet of which all else is composed. Okay? So Guru Nath or Yogi Raj expressed it very poetically in that podcast. All that is composed must get decomposed. Where then does reality lie? A very profound question, right? Because he's literally saying reality is untouched by composition or decay. Okay. Hello, Savitra. Hi, Savitri, mantra meditation. Welcome. Is it a chicken? Paka! Right. Um, so back to the topic at hand. Enlightenment is possible as a householder too. And this is what Yogi Raj shows us, right? There's no excuse to abandon family life for spiritual life, right? Even the Buddha, like a lot of people misquote the Buddha and they tell about how he left his family behind and all this, right? He was so woke that he left his family behind. But actually, years later, his family ended up joining him and his path. Okay. So this is what people don't look at and don't talk about and don't understand, right? But they just classify it as he was a bad person automatically then, if he forgot about his family, right? So let's not cast generalizations or judgments based on this information, right? Even Lahiri Mahasaya, right, and his lineage, the guy with the really squinted eyes, you might have seen his picture. Um, I love his chant as well. It's very powerful. It's very endearing, close to my heart, including the Babaji chant and Kriya Yoga and all that. It really speaks to my heart. It awakens something deep within me. So, and my family, I think, is related to like few of my cousins and generations of that. Um, Shout out to Agnihotri's father, one of my cousins' father, who is deeply invested. He plays the flute and he's on this Kriya Yoga path very deeply. So, shout out to you, uncle. Um, so you can have your responsibilities coexist with your realizations. Okay, that's one thing to understand, provided you maintain a daily communion with the divine, which is at least an hour to 3 hours of inner silence. Okay, blessings from Sri Lanka, epic. So it's not the soul that is liberated. You see, the soul is never bound. What is liberated is the intuitive intellect. You see, from the false identifications with ego and mind. So a lot of people think that the soul must be free. This is a prison planet. I have to escape this planet. I have to get out of here, right? But really, the Atma is the moon. The Buddhi is the reflection in the restless waters of mind. If you calm the waters, then the Buddhi merges back into the Atma. Okay? So Atma is just soul. Okay? So breath or prana is a binder and a liberator. The same breath, when you're breathing really fast, you're hyperventilating, you're having a panic attack, disturbs the mind. The same breath, when mastered, can calm the mind, right? And open the gateway to samadhi. This is why the yogis see breath control as like the linchpin of the entire path working, right? Which is very interesting, actually, if you look at it. Because these different stages of samadhi, right? Let's talk about those. Vitarka samadhi, which is like reasoning. Vichara samadhi, which is like contemplation or meditation. Ananda samadhi, which is bliss, okay, blissfulness, delight. Asmita samadhi, which is the I-ness, right? The awareness of being the entire creation. And beyond all, nirvikalpa samadhi, right? It's a singularity, beyond all thought, beyond all form and comprehension. Okay. So that means that holding silence and stillness still, as Yogi Raj would say, is the way to merge into the divine. I love that. Hold your silence still. Hold your silence and stillness still, for then you will become divinity's will, he said. Isn't that amazing? This is really the process of attaining this, which is very cool, as it's this simple. But it's not so simple, right? Because try shutting off your thoughts or mind. Okay? Quite interesting. I've studied flow state my entire life, so I know that is the bridge or the gateway towards these divine, more enlightened states of being. However, just being in complete stillness and silence will get you to see the reflection of the moon. Okay? So if you look at destiny as a hardened past free will, so what you repeatedly did in past lives has hardened into these present tendencies, right? So you're free within the parameters of your samskars, or your old imprints, and the larger cosmic laws. So that means karma isn't a punishment, right? It's simply a ripple effect of past choices. Yogis who reach very high realizations, they can burn their own karma, and they can even take on karma for others. Isn't that wild? Right? So Shiv Goraksha Baba, also known as Babaji, he's described, and I've read this guy's book as well, Lightning Standing Still, okay? Very powerful book. But he refers to Babaji's energy as non-being essentiality, okay? A very powerful image. You might have seen this picture of Babaji. Always, there's a one where he's pointing and looking upwards. Okay. Shout out to SLW, one of our adepts that I recently found out is connected to this path as well. Okay, so this is a very interesting picture because I truly believe, actually, I have to double check this. This might be a very interesting thing. This is another this is kind of how I look like when I shave, right? Anyway, um, not to, burst my own bubble or whatever, boost my own ego or whatever. But I do kind of have a look to that is very similar to a lot of ascended masters, very strangely. Um, let's just see here. So yeah, the ego completely took me out of this lecture, guys. Okay. So what was I going to say in regards to this, right? NLP eyes. Let's just check. Yep, it's right here. I remember learning this in as I'm also an NLP coach, so I remember this. The eyes and what the direction of the eyes mean, right? So if he's looking up, that means he's connecting to his visuals. He's remembering, well, yeah, he's remembering constructed and remembered visuals, right? So that's really powerful, is he's tapping into his visual field by looking up like this with his eyes. Isn't that interesting? Right? Upward spiral gang, looking up all the time. Why? Because he's looking at the divine, he's looking at God, right? I mean, at least that's my understanding of it. I don't know the exact meaning, but this is such a powerful understanding because, only when we look upwards and we can place our chins up, heads up, that we start to actually gain this connectedness, right? You notice people who slouch down a lot, they're very disconnected from source energy, right? Very like put down by life, kind of putting the neck down like this. But if you notice the people who, not to be snobbish, not like, right? Not like that, not exaggerated, but I'm just saying a little bit of going upwards, going into the sky, going into the clouds, right? That understanding is very powerful in regards to this because this guy's free within the parameters of the samskars, right? And he is not merely an ascended master, but a perpetually descended being who accelerates evolution. So, by his will, the cycles of yoga are quickened, right? And the coming Satya Yuga, the golden age, is being ushered, is prophesized around 2032, okay? But we don't know that for sure. Now, psychedelics may give psychic experiences to people, but these remain within the mind and the matter. And true samadhi is beyond mind altogether. This is why great yogis like Maharishi were unaffected by substances, right? Back in the day, everyone was dropping acid, doing all these things, right? These ascended masters, like, so what? What did I just take? I don't even know, right? It's just my life, right? I'm tripping every day, right? What are you talking about, right? That's the energy behind it. So they were already established in a higher voltage of consciousness, correct? So that means, in essence, this is a very profound way of saying it. Samadhi is the art of stilling the egoic waves until pure awareness shines. Okay? It's not escape, but it's total immersion into the eternal consciousness that underpins and underlies all. So that means that this path is not only open to monks, but also to householders. And if they anchor their lives in silence, discipline, and communion with their inner self, then perfect, right? Now, this next bit, I watched two movies. I watched part one and part two. So this is the essence from the film that I understood. So it's interesting because samadhi has no modern equivalent, really. Okay, I've tried to find some, and we can get close, but it still doesn't hit the bullseye. Okay, so it cannot be grasped by mind or acquired by the ego. The danger of the modern culture is you can watch a video like this, use your own ego, right, to try to own Samadhi, making it into like a kind of a spiritual trophy or like a cult following or something like this. Whereas it's beyond our comprehension, right? Because truth is that Samadhi is awakening from the dream of the separate self. Okay? Maya is the illusion of self. Some of us know this word. Okay? Now, we've forgotten not only Samadhi, but that we can even forget it. Okay? So, ego is simply repetition of old patterns, impulses of craving and aversion, craving and aversion, craving and aversion, right? Most of people's minds are memories, desires, memories, desires, memories, desires. The matrix is social conditioning plus unconscious drives. Social conditioning plus unconscious drives. So you're being flung back and forth like this until you what? You rest in the stillness, the center point, the 0 point. Okay? Now there's many ways up the mountain. That's why a master answers, can I do it in the Tao way? Like a Taoist? Sure. Can I do it the Hindu way? Yes, sure. Can I do it the Christian way? Yeah, sure. There are many ways up the mountain. Correct? So ego is simply a repetition of old patterns. And when you believe you are your persona, your master character, you are deeply, deeply asleep in Maya, right? You're playing pinball in samsara, okay? You're getting flung around. So to realize samadhi is to die before you die, which does not mean actual physical death, right? But it is the understanding that life and death are one continuum. So that means rejecting death equals rejecting life too. Direct realization of the self removes fear of life and death alike. So the mind is not just in prison, you are the prison. If you fight the illusion as if it were real, you're still asleep, now in a nightmare. But liberation isn't destroying the matrix, but disidentifying with it. Then we can enjoy the divine player Leela, right? So isn't it funny how in the Futurama she's called Leela, right? The woman. Isn't that interesting? I just got that right now. Anyway, um, Plato's cave, right? Like cave prisoners, we mistake shadows or thoughts for reality. And then civilizations fall into illusion was through Descartes' I think, therefore I am, not I am, therefore I think, right? It's the opposite. Broski reverse engineered some shit, right? I think, therefore I am. Come on now, right? The Cartesian split, we all know about this. Now, the evil demon that Plato feared is our own mind machine, endless subprograms, right? Food boss, sex boss, money boss, status boss. It's our own mind machine, and we have to play this like video game to get out of it. So we're like batteries feeding on the machine of the ego, just like in the Matrix, right? And suffering equals resistance. So on the continuum of consciousness, more identification with self equals more suffering. Samadhi doesn't remove pain, but it removes resistance to pain, which is suffering. Okay? So that means enlightenment is dropping resistance to all phenomena without exception. Now, it's not like a state that you can achieve and then just move on from there and you're kind of above others, right? But you have to start to understand this is very different because humanity is like the cosmic joke of Sisyphus, you guys know that. Um, I'm just showing people who don't understand the myth. Some of you might be very well read and know all this stuff already. It's fine. Um, okay. This is basically humanity, right? Endlessly just barraging with work and busy for the sake of being busy. This is all of humanity. Endlessly rolling the boulder of ego's pursuits up the hill, right? Before enlightenment, roll the boulder. After enlightenment, roll the boulder, right? The difference is the one who struggles is realized to be illusory, an illusion, right? So yes, you still chop wood, carry water, but without internal resistance. You're not attached to this character that you're playing so much, so you're allowed to experience the suffering very differently. So every war against cancer, terror, hunger is a war against ourselves. Wars within equals wars without, right? As within, so without. So wars within, wars without. So that means fighting for peace is shouting for silence. Are we getting this? The revolution must begin within because the outer chaos is mirroring our inner chaos. Okay. Now, there's lots of cool ancient archetypes, right? Thoth, Hermes, Metatron, right? Archetypes of knowledge, the serpent and the dragon guarding treasure, the ego and the kundalini, right? Knowledge without awakened consciousness is dangerous, like the Book of Thoth says, or the Tree of Knowledge says. So true wisdom is only possible after the ego is overcome. Now, this is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, huh? But that's tough, man. We've built our whole lives trying to build this thing up, and now we're gonna get rid of it? Fuck no, right? I want it, right? No, right? We start throwing a temper tantrum. But what if meditation is the observing the conditioned self that is changing and realizing the true self, which is unchanging? Doesn't that change your perspective on how to meditate? I'm just watching my conditioned self, which is changing, and realizing the true self that is unchanging. This changes my experience of meditation, guys, by the way. Right? The false AI timelines will try to make us immortal without feeling the heart, the soul, the spirit. You see? They still aim for immortality, but the real yogis know they're claiming for a different kind. They're rising towards a different kind of immortality. You see? It's not like on a cloud-based data server somewhere, right? It's a different style. It's a different way. It's a different path, right? So awakening is stillness and movement, emptiness of as all things, mind as servant, not master. So don't fight the mirror's reflection. Realize the source. I did this amazing guided meditation by Fred Dodson. He has it on his channel. You guys should definitely check those out. Called Contemplations with Source, I believe they're called. There's three of them. I highly recommend each one. Okay. They're very powerful and potent meditations that will take your mind to a whole different place. Okay. So, um, the brutal truth is most people think that they're awake, so they won't do the work. The first step is to admit you're an NPC, that you're asleep, that you're a robot, that you're a prisoner here. then your divine essence, you will realize, is enslaved to the ego mind, and you have to get yourself out of slavery. And samadhi means surrendering or surrender of the false self, awakening the timeless within you. So that means the illusion is the sickness, right? Maya is the sickness, then samadhi is the cure or the remedy, right? Isn't that interesting? The price of freedom? Everything you think you are. Okay? So all great spiritual traditions point to one truth. But each touches only part of the elephant, right? Someone's pulling on the elephant's leg, someone's pulling on the ears, someone's pulling on the tail, but they're not getting the full picture. But the perennial philosophy of thou art that from a sea, right? God, Tao, Nirvana, Samadhi, these are all metaphors for the same transcendent reality. Ego sees the path as an abyss, right? Like St. John of the Cross, close your eyes and walk in the dark, right? Belief is comfort for the mind. Faith is standing in radical not knowing. So to realize samadhi, the self must dissolve. No me passes through the gates. Now, in this nirvikalpa samadhi, the highest samadhi is the cessation of all self activity, seeking, doing, right? It's neither thing nor no thing, neither consciousness nor unconsciousness. Returning from it feels like rebirth. The world tastes new. It's now perfumed with a divine and holy lens, right? Religion's aim is ultimately union, right? The word religion is religare, to rebind. But if you take the word yoga as to yoke or to unite, the word Islam is submission, right? All point to the surrender of the ego as union with the transcendent. Okay? Always two poles, upwards to the absolute, downwards Maya manifestation. As Sir Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj once said, wisdom is knowing I am nothing. Love is knowing I am everything. One of my favorite quotes. And between two, my life moves. Okay. This man's book was a huge part of my, you could say, breakthrough of a mini awakening that I had had. Okay. I'm not fully enlightened yet, or I've been maybe self-realized, you could say, at a certain point, a lot of points in my journey. But this was one of the very core lessons that I had received. This transmission was powerful. Wisdom is knowing I'm nothing. Love is knowing I'm everything. And between both, my life moves. Okay. So Shiva plus Shakti, right? Masculine, consciousness that is changeless. Feminine, phenomenal, ever changing. And this births a new divine consciousness, pure love. Empty, yet very full, right? From DNA coils to chakras to galaxies, the spiral is the bridge from the micro to the macro. Upward spiral, gang, to infinity and beyond, right? As I say. So samadhi is realizing the emptiness at all levels of self. Zhuangzi said, When there is no more separation between this and that, it is the still point of the Tao. Okay? When there's no separation between this or that, it is the still point of the Tao. So the singularity at the center of everything, the center that is everywhere, right? That's terrifying to the ego because guardians test you. Only surrender dissolves the self, right? So we take the koshas or the layers of the self, mirrors, body, mind, our breath, prana, right? Higher mind, our bliss, and we mistake the reflections for ourselves. But if you break all the mirrors, there's no reflection left. Where are you? The source is not something, not nothing. It's a pregnant emptiness, right? Turiya is one of my favorite states to talk about on this channel, okay? The fourth state of consciousness, okay? Let me just show you guys uh, the Om symbol. You guys will understand this better. Turiya is the fourth state. That's the absolute reality, right? The pure consciousness, Atman Brahman. Let's see here. Perfect. Okay. Dreaming, wakefulness, deep sleep, the absolute. Turiya is like the veil, right? Towards the absolute. So that means beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep rests this primordial awareness that underlies all states. Primal Sutra. Okay. Known as Sahaja Samadhi, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. It's a stillness unmoving at the center, even while life moves at the circumstance and circumference. Ramakrishna said, seek illumination like a man on fire seeks water. Total effort equals total surrender. Effort versus non-effort is still duality. When you drop both, you can be still and know. Okay, it's a very paradoxical path. This is what I'm telling you. It's very deep and profound. So it might go over people's heads, but I'm trying my best to explain this, guys. Because once we stop all pathological ego-driven activities and we return to this inner silence through prayer, stillness, meditation, however way you want to do this, and it's not about adding anything, but stripping away everything not permanent. Now, Ferros is connected to a very interesting saint. Um, and one of his quotes that I was looking up is, what you are looking for is what is looking, right? What you are looking for is what is looking. Isn't that wild? So the punchline is samadhi is not a thing to achieve, not a concept to believe. Samadhi, and we have a lot of different definitions here for it, right? Is the light that dispels the illusion of self. Woo-wee! Okay? Life is restless until it comes to rest in the mystery, beyond name and beyond form. Okay? So, guys, we covered a lot today. I hope you enjoyed this transmission. Okay? Merging into the absolute, this understanding, all the mirrors. We talked about the koshas. We talked about the fourth state, Turiya. We talked about the union of opposites. Okay? We talked about the gateless gate and the pathless path. Okay? So thank you so much, guys. But basically, samadhi isn't something you chase, it's what's left when the chasing burns away. It's the pathless path, it's the silence under all the noise, the nothing that reveals everything. So don't worship the word, worship the state. Worship the state. And when you do, I'm 100% confident that you will understand and know that you've always been home. Welcome home. Thank you so much for tapping in, guys. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. May the flow be with you. Take care of yourselves, and may we never be the same again. May the flow be with you. Stay legendary. Have the most incredible day ever. And I'll see you when I see you. Okay, guys? Tune in, watch those two movies. Maybe even check out that podcast I was referring to by Yogi Raj. And may your life never be the same again. All right. Peace and love. Let's get it today. Infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond. Let's get it. Upward spiral.